This is one of those nights where if you're a Bears fan locked in like I am, you feel that mix of urgency and possibility in your chest. Because the league just told you, again, that the market for smart, physical defensive backs is open for business. And one of the most interesting names to fit exactly what we've been screaming about in Chicago has already moved once. Maybe too fast, while our front office chose patience instead of chaos. Welcome to Bears News Fan Report. I'm talking straight to you, one-on-one. No clickbait, no fake "it's done" headline. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through why Michael Carter II popped up as one of the cleanest nickel profiles available, how his game and contract line up with what we're building at Halas Hall, what actually happened with his situation on the trade market, and whether there is any real scenario where he ends up in navy and orange instead of settling in as part of somebody else's playoff push. Stay with me until the end, because the answer isn't as simple as yes or no, and what it reveals about the Bears' strategy is way more important than one name on the depth chart. Let's start from where we are, not from old narratives. These Chicago Bears are no longer the lost, soft version that people around the league made jokes about. There's a real core forming, a front seven with attitude, a secondary that has invested premium resources, a coaching staff demanding accountability in coverage and in tackling, a front office that finally looks more interested in stacking sustainable pieces than winning the press conference. When you operate from that place, every move you even consider has to respect the identity you're building. That's why a name like Michael Carter II cuts through the noise. He's not a splashy jersey seller, he's a technician. He's a slot corner who hits, diagnoses, competes. 5 years in the league, battle-tested inside, experienced against bunch sets, option routes, motion. He has shown steady nickel presence, willing against the run, able to match in space. You're not betting on mystery. You're betting on tape and habits. For a defense that wants to suffocate third and medium, finish drives, and stop living on the edge in the middle of the field, that profile matters. That's exactly why, as the deadline approached and his situation with the Jets shifted, his name started landing on lists of smart pickups across the league. Cost-controlled, experienced, scheme-versatile. The buzz was simple and logical. A team that values discipline and toughness in the slot, that needs depth, that understands how important nickel is in modern football, checks his file. You and I both know the Bears fit that description on paper. At the same time, context matters. Michael Carter II is not some washed-up name. He's a 26-year-old who has already put solid coverage reps and production on film. No crazy ball hawk numbers, but consistent disruption, tight coverage, pass breakups, leverage, effort. That's what earns you respect inside buildings. That's also what makes you attractive to contenders who treat nickel as a starting position, not as an afterthought. When the Jets started reshaping their roster and his name came up as a realistic trade chip, the expectation among people paying attention was that someone would pounce. And that's exactly what happened. A front office hungry to reload its secondary stepped in and moved quickly to get him. In other words, by the time most fans started seriously putting Michael Carter II and Bears in the same sentence, he was already being folded into another team's plans. That's the twist at the heart of our conversation tonight. So does that close the door completely on him in Chicago? Short term, yes. Right now, he belongs to an organization that paid to get him and sees him as part of its depth and flexibility in the back end. To get him out of there, you're not just calling a rebuilding team, you're trying to convince a contender to undo a move it just made. That's not realistic without overpaying, and overpaying for a nickel when you're still carefully stacking your own core is not how serious franchises operate. That's the first truth I want you to internalize. As things stand, there is no concrete sign that Michael Carter II is on his way to Halas Hall. But that's only half the story, and stopping there would miss the real point. The more important question is, should the Bears have been that aggressive team? Was this one of those moments where Ryan Poles in this front office needed to jump faster, throw in a pick, and lock down the slot for the next stretch? To answer that, I look at 3 layers: fit, cost, and timeline. On fit, it's almost clean. He plays with the kind of leverage, competitiveness, and tackling our defensive staff loves. He's comfortable inside, understands pattern-matching concepts, and doesn't flinch in run support. Drop him next to our outside corners, and you imagine a unit that squeezes windows instead of surviving them. On cost at the time he was moving, his deal and situation made him one of the more approachable names. Not a break-backing salary, some future guarantees to think about, but nothing you can't manage if you see him as a true piece and not a rental. That's the kind of profile where the Bears could absolutely be in the conversation without destroying their cap or draft flexibility. But on timeline, though, is where the calculation gets real. The Bears are entering that fragile moment where they need to think like contenders in some parts of the roster and like long-term builders in others. You cannot throw assets at every need. You need to pick your spots. If internally they believe strongly in their young defensive backs, if they see growth at nickel from the guys already in the building, if they view this scheme as one that can coach up that role instead of importing every answer, then passing on a bidding war for Carter II isn't cowardice, it's discipline. It's saying, we're not one veteran nickel away from a Lombardi yet. We're going to use those bullets where the gap is bigger. And right now, you can make a strong argument that premium resources belong on pass rush depth, trenches, and keeping the offensive structure elite around your quarterback. That doesn't mean ignoring the secondary. It means sequencing the puzzle. From where I sit, talking to you as someone who treats this fan base with respect, I see both sides clearly. On one hand, Michael Carter II in Chicago would have made football sense. Cleaner matchups in the slot, more flexibility to disguise coverages, a proven presence in a spot where one mistake becomes a 25-yard gain. On the other hand, the Bears not forcing it and letting another team be the one to pay now lines up with how this regime is operated. Controlled aggression, no desperation swings to chase the headline. Remember, the worst version of this franchise in the past was the one reacting emotionally, paying for names instead of roles. The version we're watching evolve is trying hard not to repeat that. So, to answer the big question you came here with, and this is the climax of all of this, no. As of this moment, there is no sign that Michael Carter II is coming to play for the Chicago Bears, and the move that sent him elsewhere makes that scenario a long shot unless his new team reopens that door down the road. In the short term, what this saga really tells us is how the league values his skill set and what kind of profile the Bears themselves should be tracking. Tough nickel, smart eyes, reliable tackling, financially manageable. If a similar opportunity appears with the right conditions, that's where I expect this front office to be ready. And here's where I bring you in, because this is Bears News Fan Report, and this channel lives from thinking the game at the same level as the people in the building. Tell me in the comments, honestly, would you have wanted the Bears to push harder and be the team that went and got Michael Carter II, even if it cost a mid-round pick and a bit of future flexibility? Or do you agree with the idea of holding position, trusting the current DB room, and keeping the ammo for bigger swings at pass rusher or premium spots? Do you see this as a missed chance to tighten a potential playoff defense, or as a smart example of not getting dragged into every rumor just because a name fits on paper? My concise read, straight and professional. Michael Carter II is exactly the kind of disciplined, inside coverage player who would fit the mentality of this defense and help close games, but not at any price, and not at the expense of the bigger construction work still underway. The Bears choosing not to dive into that race right now is consistent with a front office that is protecting its long-term leverage, and that only becomes a real problem if they ignore similar opportunities in the future when the rest of the roster is fully ready to contend. Until then, this story is a reminder of the standard. If you wear navy and orange, you build a defense where a player like that is the finishing touch, not the foundation. If you value having this level of breakdown instead of shallow rumor talk, make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report. Hit like, turn your notifications on, and share this video with that friend who only reads the headline and thinks every name linked to Chicago is a done deal. Here, you're going to keep getting fast updates, smart context, and honest analysis on every move that can shape the next great Bears team.